Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button.
You know what's interesting about the whole Daulton Varsho situation? The Blue Jays just committed $10.75 million to a guy who has the fan base completely split down the middle. Some people think he's untouchable, others want him gone tomorrow. And honestly, both sides have pretty compelling arguments. So here's what just went down. The Blue Jays and Varsho avoided arbitration by agreeing to this one-year deal worth $10.75 million for the 2026 season. Now, if you've been following the projections, this came in about $1 million higher than what people were expecting. The estimates had him around $9.7 million, so he got himself a nice little bump there. And look, $1 million might not sound like much when we're talking about Major League Baseball contracts, but when you consider that the Blue Jays just had their most expensive offseason in franchise history, you'd think they'd be looking to save money wherever they could. But nope, they paid up. All three arbitration-eligible players they've settled with so far came in above projections. Tyler Heineman got $1.2 million instead of $1.1. Ernie Clement pulled in 4.6 instead of 4.3, and now Varsho with this deal. But here's the thing that makes this contract really significant. This is Varsho's last year of arbitration eligibility. After this season, he's a free agent, and that's where things get really interesting, because the Blue Jays are going to have some major decisions to make. Think about it. Both Varsho and George Springer could potentially walk after 2026. That's two massive holes in your outfield going into 2027. So naturally, there's a chunk of the fan base screaming for the front office to extend Varsho right now. Lock him up for a few years, avoid losing him for nothing, keep that elite defense in center field. Makes sense, right? Varsho's going to be 30 years old in July, and he's going to hit free agency during what looks like a pretty weak class for outfielders. You've got some big names on that list, don't get me wrong. Ronald Acuna Jr., Luis Robert Jr. But here's the catch. They both have club options. There's a real chance those guys never even make it to the open market. After that, you're looking at Randy Arozarena, Springer again, Adolis Garcia, and a bunch of other solid but not spectacular options. If those club options get exercised and guys like Acuna and Robert stay put, Varsho could legitimately be one of the top available outfielders in that class, especially if he puts together a strong 2026 season. And his defense alone, man, his defense is something you just can't ignore. Let's talk about those defensive numbers for a second because they're absolutely ridiculous. Over his 3 years with the Blue Jays, Varsho has put up 32 outs above average and is plus 65 in defensive runs saved. Those aren't just good numbers. Those are elite, gold glove caliber numbers. When he's out there in center field, he's saving runs. He's making plays that most guys just can't make. That has real, tangible value. But then there's the other side of the coin, and this is where the debate gets heated. His offense has been, let's be honest, inconsistent at best. He's been incredibly streaky during his time in Toronto. The overall slash line tells the story: .221 batting average, .288 on-base percentage, .428 slugging for an OPS of 716. Those are not the numbers you want from a guy making nearly $11 million and potentially looking for a long-term deal. The strikeouts are another major concern. 349 strikeouts in 3 seasons with Toronto, and the strikeout percentage has gone up every single year he's been here. That's not a trend you want to see. When a guy's strikeout rate is climbing instead of stabilizing or improving, that's a red flag. Now, to be fair, he does average about 20 home runs per season with the Blue Jays, and last year he actually had some really strong offensive numbers. He posted a weighted runs created plus of 123 and was worth 7.5 offensive wins above replacement, which was a career high for him. But here's the thing, he only played 71 games because of various injuries. So yeah, the rate stats looked good, but the durability questions are legitimate. And then we get to the playoffs, which is where things get really complicated. In the division series against the Yankees, Varsho was absolutely on fire. .438 batting average, 2 home runs, 7 hits in 4 games. He was a huge part of why they won that series, but then the wheels kind of fell off. In the next 2 series combined, he had just 1 home run and 10 total hits. To be fair, the Blue Jays still won the ALCS against Seattle in 7 games, so it didn't kill them. But the World Series? That's where it got rough. Varsho went 1 for 13 in the final 3 games, didn't even get on base in games 6 or 7. When the team needed him most, when everything was on the line, he couldn't deliver. Now, is it fair to judge a player's entire value based on what he did in the final 3 games of the season? Absolutely not. That's a tiny sample size, and baseball's a game of failure, even for the best players. But when you're trying to decide whether to commit long-term money to someone, those moments matter. They stick in people's minds. There's also the question about his arm. He had off-season shoulder surgery, and while his glove work in center field is still elite, his arm strength has taken a hit. For a center fielder, that's something you have to monitor closely. So, where does this leave us? The Blue Jays just gave Varsho $10.75 million for 2026. He's got 1 more year to prove he's worth a long-term investment. He's got a full, healthy offseason to get his body right. And he's got every incentive in the world to have a monster year because he's staring at free agency and potentially his last big contract. Maybe this is the year he finally puts it all together. Maybe he stays healthy for a full season, the bat heats up, stays consistent, and he reminds everyone why he was such a highly regarded prospect. Maybe he becomes one of the most sought-after free agents in the 2027 class. Or maybe he has another up-and-down year. The injuries continue, the strikeouts pile up, and the Blue Jays decide to let him walk and move in a different direction. One thing's for sure, this 2026 season is going to tell us everything we need to know about Daulton Varsho's future in Toronto. $10.75 million, 1 year, and a whole lot riding on what happens next. The clock is ticking.